Senator Ted Cruz and his Democrat colleague, Senator Joe Manchin, have just saved your gas stove. Yes. Cruz and Manchin introduced legislation to prevent the federal government from banning gas-powered stoves. Now, what you're going to hear from the libs who are going to try to poo-poo all of this, just the same way they say, oh, the spy balloons come over our country all the time. Oh, myocarditis, that happens all the time. What they're going to say is nobody's trying to ban your gas stove. This is a political right-wing fever dream. No, it's not true. Here is the Consumer Product Safety Commissioner, Richard Trumka, saying just a couple of months ago that the government would be looking into banning gas stoves.
I think we need to be talking about regulating gas stoves, whether that's drastically improving emissions or banning gas stoves entirely. And I think we ought to keep that possibility of a ban in mind as you follow along, because it's a powerful tool in our toolbox and it's a real possibility here.
So this is not imagined. This is not tinfoil hat. This is really happening. Cruz and Manchin say in a statement, quote, the federal government has no business telling American families how to cook their dinner, which is why Senator Cruz and I introduced bipartisan legislation to ensure Americans decide how to cook in their own homes. I can tell you the last thing that would ever leave our house is the gas stove we cook on, and I will continue to fight any overreach by the Consumer Product Safety Commission. This is really, really good stuff. I can anticipate the reaction from the squishy right-wingers. The only criticism that I can imagine, but I bet you'll hear it, is, oh, come on, this is an overreach here. This is now what? Now it's the conservatives wielding the government to pass legislation about gas stoves one way or the other. This is so crazy. The federal government shouldn't be talking about gas stoves. What a waste of time. To which I say, but the federal government is talking about gas stoves. Ted Cruz and Joe Manchin didn't start this fight. The Consumer Product Safety Commission started this fight. And you might say, well, the federal government has no right to ban gas stoves. Yeah, they don't, but they could. They could do it. Federal government does all sorts of stuff. And this regulation could happen. Do you remember when the Democrats tried to ban our incandescent light bulbs and succeeded? They succeeded. So for a while, I think, when was this? Around 2008, 2010, somewhere in there, the Dems banned incandescent light bulbs, also known as the nice light bulbs, the warm, beautiful light bulbs. And they made everyone use those hideous fluorescent bulbs that are really ugly. They're unpleasant on the eyes. They're filled with mercury, or LEDs, which are also unpleasant on the eyes. You think these are minor issues, but they're not minor issues. They're major, major issues. Any conservative who believes that culture matters at all, who thinks that politics is about more than just marginal tax rates, will have to admit that light bulbs and gas stoves are some of the most important issues in the country. Why is that? Because they affect pretty much every moment of our day. And we're not even conscious of it. That's why they're so important too, is because we're not even aware consciously of what light bulbs are like. But they affect the way we feel, the way we view the world, our perceptions of aesthetics all the time. Christopher Alexander, the architect and architectural theorist, he pointed out that when you go into a space, it will always either slightly raise or slightly lower your spirits. But it won't be neutral. Nothing is neutral. If I can insist upon one point from this entire show, not just this episode, I mean this whole show, it is that nothing is neutral in this world. Things are either a little bit better, a little bit worse, a little bit truer, a little bit falser, a little bit more beautiful, a little bit uglier. A little bit more for God or a little bit more for the guy that Sam Smith was dressed up at the other night. And so we need to engage in these sorts of decisions. We need to recognize that these cultural issues matter. All the libs ever tell us is, oh, who cares about the bathrooms? Who cares if a man goes into the girl's bathroom? It's not a big deal. Oh, who cares about the Chinese weather balloon? Oh, who cares about vaccine side effects? Oh, who cares about the light bulbs? Oh, who cares about the gas stoves? I care, because that's my culture. If you say, who cares long enough about every single aspect of my culture, then you're going to completely upend my culture. And I love that Cruz and Manchin are not letting this one slip by. They're saying, no, you get to keep your gas stove, okay? You get to keep it. Now, meanwhile, the other Republicans are just completely clueless. I got in trouble. I'll keep this brief because it's just a response to some reaction against something I said on the show the other day. I pointed out that it is very silly for the GOP to offer a second response to the State of the Union in Spanish. And we've got one response from Sarah Sanders. That's bad enough because whoever gives the response to the State of the Union, it usually harms their political career because you don't have the grandeur of being in Congress to actually deliver it like the president does. But now we're giving a second one in Spanish. And the guy who's giving it, he's this congressman with 6 kids, seems like a great guy. But the message that it sends is so bad. Some conservatives have said, Michael, who cares? What, you don't want people to speak other languages? Please focus on something that matters. We're going to reach out to the Hispanics. I love people who speak other languages. I speak other languages myself. I go to church in another language. Okay, I'm all for that. But this is the State of the Union. This is supposed to be an event that unites us as a nation. It's both houses of Congress in meeting in the same chamber. It's the Democrats and the Republicans. It's the members of the Supreme Court even show up. It's all of us tuning in. It's supposed to unite us. And in this country, we have very, very little that unites us anymore. The ordinary means that unite nations include religion, ideology, race, shared experience, like the experience of a war, epistemology even, the idea that at this point in America, we can't even agree on how we can know things at all. You've got half the country who is worshiping Dr. Fauci and says that if a guy in a white lab coat doesn't say it, it isn't true. And then you've got half the country remembers that actually, we can know certain things beyond just what crooked technocrats tell us. We have very little that unites us. The basic thing, the only thing left is language. And in a self-governing republic, language is essential because that's how we govern ourselves. We speak and we persuade one another and we pass legislation. If you don't speak the same language, which is the premise here, the premise is there's a lot of people in America who don't speak English. That's a problem. We shouldn't be catering to that. We should be discouraging that. But instead, what do we have? We have the Republicans saying, no, it's a muy bueno that we're going to go out here and talk in an Espanol. And the Democrats, they're the real racists and Spanish phobes. And do you see Joe Biden giving a speech in Spanish tonight? I don't think so. I hope not. But we're the ones doing it because we think that maybe we'll pick up a few extra voters. Republicans have done a decent enough job on the Hispanic vote recently. Though I think actually more of the victory in Florida is probably explained by just millions of new Republicans leaving states like California and moving into Florida. But we've done a good job with Hispanic voters. I love Hispanic voters. I think it's great. I even like the Spanish language. I even like Spanish literature. But not at my State of the Union. This is America. Speak English. Good grief. Speak any common language. Make it Latin. I don't know. That'd be fun. Maybe that can be our common language. But make it a common language. If we're all speaking our own languages, we are only going to further the self-obsessed chaos that has enveloped our entire country. It's crazy. Head on over to dailywire.com/Knowles. Use code Knowles at checkout for 2 months free on all annual plans.